Okay, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time, and Gwen, thank you, and ChiroMatrix very much. What we're going to look at today is some things to really help your practice. One of the things I'll just add to that lovely introduction that Gwen did is I am in the process of finishing a master's in 21st century communications, and the reason I mentioned that is because a lot of that focus is on compliance, best practices for professions such as yourself. These are some of the things we're going to cover today, as Gwen mentioned, so let's get right to it. This is basically my disclaimer. It's just letting you know that I'm not an attorney. I am not a HIPAA compliance officer. I have done a lot of research and a lot of studying on it, but it's always good to check anything that you hear. The social practice. As Gwen mentioned, I really believe in a social practice, meaning that all facets of a practice are involved. And what you're doing then is you're taking your practice and integrating it with your customer base. And we're going to talk more about that and why that's so important. As we all know, advertising and marketing is no longer a one-way conversation. The consumer has a very powerful voice. This is just an example of one type of consumer with a very powerful voice, and that's the mommy blogger. Some mommy bloggers have thousands upon thousands of followers. They write consistently about products, services, professionals that they recommend so that other moms or who's ever reading those blogs can hear what they have to say. They have become so powerful and so prolific that now they actually must disclose right up front if they are receiving a product or service at no charge or at a discount, and then writing about it so that people know what their relationship is. The millennials. This is a generation, and the years move a little bit depending on where you look, but it's approximately those born between 1980 and 2000. They're 80 million strong. They're larger than the 76 million baby boomers. They are going to have a huge impact on our culture, our economy, our society, and we have to reach them. You have to reach them. They are clearly potential patients of yours, and some of them may already be patients of yours, but they are a tech-savvy generation. They have grown up with it. They are comfortable with it. They use it. And they understand and are comfortable with this new form of communication. So again, how are we going to reach them? How are we going to make sure that they know that you're out there and that you're providing wellness and that you're providing care and you're providing health? And again, as the boomers are much more health conscious than the generation before and are feeling younger and more active, and 50 is the new 30 and all of that, this generation of millennials, even more so, is going to be looking for wellness, and in particular the type of wellness that you offer, moving away from some of the traditional drugs, pharmaceuticals, and surgeries, and that's what they're telling us. Who's on Facebook? This changes. It changes actually daily, and in fact, I believe it was September 14th, Facebook hit 1 billion users. A difficult number to wrap your mind around, and really doesn't relate to your particular practice, where you are. But this is just a breakdown. It'll give you a little bit of an idea of the fact that everybody's on social media. It isn't just teenagers. It isn't just college kids. It isn't just mommy bloggers. And as you can see, and what has consistently happened over the last 2 years, is that the 50-plus generation is the fastest growing demographic. And you can see here that 65 and over, they are also using this vehicle. And of course, you may have patients in all of these categories, and all of them are utilizing social media. Women and men, this changes also. Men are catching up. somewhat to women on Facebook, but still women have the edge on this particular social media. Doing Facebook right. We all know that mobile is here and it's here to stay. And one of the things about mobile is that people are accessing their social media from it. They're using it to post on Facebook, they're using it to tweet, they're using it to take a short video, they're using it to take a picture, they're using Instagram, all of these things that they're using on mobile devices, and this will continue. And mobile is going to continue to grow. In fact, the ability to access on tablets and on cell phones is starting to overtake the desktops and the laptops as far as where we Google things and where we get our information from. So we want to do it right. And one of the things that I talk about, and the reason I talk about the social company, is because we want to have your staff engage with your patients and potential patients. We want to increase the comfort level with your practice. Whoever is the customer-facing people, when someone walks in the door, when someone answers the phone, relationships are built. And in the case of chiropractors, you're often seeing clients for quite a while. You may see them a few times a week. You may see them a couple times a month. You may see them for years so that they stay healthy. And a relationship is built up. Your part is also very important. And Gwen alluded to this earlier on. It is also important that you take part in building this relationship on social media. Understanding, of course, that you have limited time. Your staff has limited time. So we're going to talk about doing this in just a few minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, to use this vehicle of social media to further increase and grow your practice. Does your page reflect you? This is a wonderful page that ChiroMatrix has put up. And you can see here the banner, the profile picture, an example of a professional-looking Facebook page. Testimonials. We know that people are engaging on Facebook, and we know that they're asking their friends, their relatives, even strangers, for recommendations and reading testimonials from other people. The more you engage, the more people want to go on and put testimonials. And it's okay to ask patients to post a testimonial. People like to compliment people when they've had good service. They like to say, this was a great movie, this was a great meal, I just came from my chiropractor, man, do I feel better. People enjoy that. This is the whole idea of the consumer having the power to be kind of their own journalist, their own advertiser, their own PR person. There are many things you can do in your practice to increase what's going on and in building the relationships with your patients. On Facebook, you can claim a username. It's the URL for your Facebook page, just like for your website. You have a URL for your Facebook name. Facebook does tell you that you have to wait till you have 25 people on there to claim the username. The one point I want to make here is that it used to be you couldn't change your URL once you picked it. Just recently, because Facebook changes almost by the minute with their rules and what they're doing, you can now change your URL one time. They will allow a one-time change. So I just mentioned that. It's good to have a sign, several signs. I work with chiropractors. The minute you come in the door, there's a really nice, friendly sign on the counter where you're signing in to let them know that you're on Facebook. If you want a QR code, those can be picked up, and they can be picked up for free. Just reminding them, again, it's in their face. It's reminding them, hey, here's another place to connect with us. Here's another place to see what's going on. And obviously, that becomes a place they can refer to when they want to recommend you to someone else. In scent checking in, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Okay, building engagement. This is a really important part. As I mentioned before, advertising marketing used to be one way. You turn on the television, you see a commercial. You open a magazine, you see an ad. You turn on the radio, you hear an advertisement. It wasn't two-way. There wasn't any interaction. Now, we've all screamed at our television set, but it's not getting anywhere. That information isn't going out to anybody else. This is about involving everybody. So you, as the doctor, are involved, your staff is involved, and your patients are involved. We want to build that relationship. What happens here is a tremendous amount of trust and loyalty that is built. People are using social media anyway. So what you want to do is you want to engage your patients to actually help you grow your business, not just by word of mouth when they're talking to someone, but on social media when they can talk to that many more people at a time. So again, it's important to get everybody involved. And Gwen, I'm gonna stop here for a moment, and would you mind asking of our audience how many people have their staff involved in their social media?
Sure, go ahead. I think you should be able to see that on your screen. Just go ahead and answer yes or no if you have staff helping with your social media, and we'll just leave that up for a moment or two.
Let me, that way I don't have to close my, I don't have to close it because you have the screen on me.
Oh, okay. I think that they can all see it. That's fine. I'll close it in just a moment. Okay. It looks like we've got a good portion of the people that have answered our poll, so I'm going to go ahead and close that, and then let's share the results of what we've got there. So about 64% of you have your staff helping with your social media. That's a significant percentage.
That's fabulous. I want to congratulate all of you that are doing that. That's absolutely fabulous, and we're going to talk more about it, but that is great. And for those of you that haven't yet, we're going to talk about that and about how you can do it and why and how simple it can actually be, and also just some precautions when you do it. Okay. Give me one moment because this for some reason, excuse me, was stuck there for a moment. Okay, doctors are people too. This gentleman is a physician. He's actually an OB/GYN, as you can see here in Dallas, Texas. And in my research, I discovered some things that he had written. And I really appreciate and like the fact that what he's saying here is to build a more comfortable relationship with our patients, we really have to relate to them the way they want us to relate to them. And I think it's even easier for chiropractors than necessarily for the stigma of the medical physician being somewhat of a distant person. This gives you the opportunity to really relate to your patients. And here's where I said I know your time is limited. So I don't expect you to be sitting on Facebook all day long. However, once or twice a week, talking on the page as the doctor can be extremely effective to building that relationship with your patients. And again, they see you as people. They see you as taking, first of all, taking the time to interact on social media where they're taking the time to interact, and also to be able to communicate with you in that vehicle as well. And I just want to go, I'm going to go back here for a moment. One of the other things that Dr. Livingston does is he will actually reach out to his patients and ask a question and help him understand what's going on. For instance, as I said, he's an OBGYN, and he wrote an article about reaching out to patients on social media and asking, if you have had a miscarriage, what would you have wanted your doctor to say to help you through that experience, that emotionally trying experience? And he said that within just a few moments, 15 of his patients had written back to tell them what they would have liked to hear or what they would like to hear in that situation. So again, there's a little bit of that two-way conversation. And again, as we said, for those of you, and it was about 64%, getting your staff involved is important. Number one, it reduces the time you're spending. But number two, again, it's the people facing your patients. And in many cases in a chiropractic office, perhaps except for the person who's doing the billing, you have tremendous customer-facing staff that are dealing with your patients in one way or another. If you're doing x-rays, if you're doing intake, if you have a case manager, obviously if you're doing adjustments in any other type of therapy. One of the great things to do is to recognize your staff. The old employee of the month, in situations where an employee of the month might have a parking space or some other recognition. I live here in Las Vegas, and when you drive, you will see that the casinos have lit billboards of their employee of the week or employee of the month. You're talking about massive exposure as people are driving by. It's the same thing with something like Facebook. It's a great way to get your patients more familiar with your staff, particularly if you're hiring someone new. It's a great way to say happy birthday, wish them an anniversary, whether it's a personal anniversary or anniversary with your practice, and something special they may have done. If they've done a really good job, if they've thought of a new idea, if they've simplified something. It's a great place to put praise. One caveat here, always make sure that people are okay with their picture and their name on Facebook. You may occasionally have staff members that absolutely want nothing to do with this, and that's perfectly fine. If people don't want to have anything to do with it, that's okay. The staff members that you do have participating would be administrators on your page. But again, we don't force anyone to deal with social media if they don't want to, and some people have very legitimate reasons for not wanting to. Now, you can make a staff member an administrator on your page, and they'll always be posting as the page, so their identity doesn't exist, except they have to have a profile. And many people don't even want to have the barest amount of information. So, of course, we have to respect that. But again, a great way to recognize your staff. And, of course, I don't have to say the obvious, which is this is only for praise. This is never for criticism. Your staff are also your ambassadors and your watchdogs. If they're involved in your social media, they're speaking on behalf of the practice. They're helping you sell it. They're helping engage. They're helping market. They're helping build up that trust and loyalty. And they're also watchdogs, so that they're paying attention to any comments. And we're going to address that in a few moments. Any comments that may not be, shall we say, stellar. Although it happens infrequently, we're going to address it in a few moments. Your staff has to be trained. They need to understand what's appropriate on social media, what you want to be said about the practice, so that everybody's on the same page. And obviously, your practices are all compliant, and they need to remain compliant in regard to social media. I'm sure this is everybody's favorite topic. I spent a lot, probably the last 6 months, doing some research with HIPAA and writing papers, and I decided I would Google, and I found the HIPAA short version. And as you probably know, the HIPAA short version is also, I don't know how many pages long. So I applaud all of you that have to dig through all of this, and I know it changes all the time. And it's changing in regard to social media and the new way that we communicate and the new way that you communicate with your patients. And it really is starting to infiltrate many of the things that you do to interact with your patients. And I'm sure you're aware of that. Social media policy. When the internet first got very popular, we talked about internet policies. We talked about making sure that people in an organization understood what was appropriate and what was not appropriate. It's the same thing with social media. It does not have to be a 10-page document. It can be a very simple one-page. You want to have your internet policy reviewed and make sure it's up to date. And you want to have a social media policy created by an attorney. And again, this should not be an expensive or lengthy process. Your social media policy should be communicated to your entire staff, and they should acknowledge receipt of it. And part of this is making sure that everybody understands HIPAA compliance when it comes to something like social media. What is appropriate on the practice page on Facebook? But it goes beyond that. It also talks about what's appropriate on their own personal profile pages if they are discussing the practice. And it's important to talk to an attorney about this, because what sometimes happens is businesses just think that they can completely regulate every single thing that an employee does on their own social media, on their own time. And in actuality, you can't. But you can regulate certain things. So it's important, and I stress this point because of the compliance. Have a simple social media policy drawn up. Have people sign it. Have everybody understand so that everybody's on the same page. Getting the information out. We know that social media can go viral. By viral, we mean that a certain post, a certain video, a certain picture can suddenly start spreading like wildfire. We see it all the time, and we see it with things on YouTube. Some of them funny, some of them political, some of them whatever the case may be. And these things just spread and spread and spread. Video is one of the most effective ways to spread the word. Short videos, under 2 minutes, whether it be a simple 15 or 30-second patient saying, you can't imagine how much better I feel, or I don't know what I would do without you, or my spouse or my child or my whatever is just so much healthier because we come and see you. Again, short videos, our attention spans are really the size of a gnat these days. But not everybody takes the time or the inclination to do video, but it is an option. And again, as I mentioned with Dr. Livingston, you can also turn to Facebook and Twitter, if you like, and ask questions and ask patients for input. So this is about getting the information out, and it's about the information being shared. And now Facebook lets you see who has shared a particular post. So you know who's out there saying, hey, yeah, I want to share this. This is really cool. This is really interesting. Now, just as we said, the staff loves to be praised, so do your patients. Depending on how your practice is set up, and in many cases you may have an intensive period, an intensive treatment phase, and then there may be moving on to stabilization or maintenance. People love recognition. People who make all of their appointments. People who show up on time. People who do whatever home exercises you've given them to do. People who refer business to you. People love to be recognized and social media is a great place to recognize people. And again, here, a caveat, on your intake form or whatever you're using to get information, have a little disclaimer at the bottom that simply says, please let us know if you're okay with us posting your name and picture and or video on the internet and social media. And let people check off on it. Most people don't care. But of course, you have to respect those people who do. Most people love this, and they're all over it. So again, it's a quick picture, tagging them, great job. Fabulous. You've made every appointment. You know, thanks so much for your referrals. We're so happy we're getting your friends and neighbors and family members healthy, so on and so forth. Make a big deal about it. Your staff can put a comment up. And I'm going to say this regardless of social media, people love recognition. Whether you're giving them a certificate or you're giving them something else to say, good job, let's move you on to the next phase. Now, we talked about checking in, and we're going to spend a moment on that here. Checking in, is you're all probably familiar, is Facebook said, you know, you go to Facebook, you go to your profile, you go to check in, and it brings up the location where you're at. This is a great way for people to see, because when people go to check in, they're going to see X amount of people also checked in at your establishment. It helps with your social media. And one of the things to remember with social media these days is it's a very important piece of your search engine optimization. So the more engagement, the more activity we can get, the better. So it has a twofold approach, because Google's looking at social media very heavily. So maybe we incent people. First of all, we ask them to check in, as we had that sign up. Takes them about 5 seconds on their phone, 10 seconds on their phone. Maybe we do a little incentive program. You know, some of you may do free exams and consultations, some of you may not. Maybe it's you know, $25 off x-rays if necessary. I know you have to work within your compliance guidelines. Maybe if you check in 10 times, we give you a $20 Starbucks card. And I have seen, I mean, people will do almost anything for a Starbucks card. I mean, people love receiving Starbucks cards. And it's as simple as maybe putting a little gold star if you actually are still using paper for all your forms. If you're doing it electronically, it's just setting up a way to keep track. Hey, this person has checked in 10 times. Here's a Starbucks card. Thank you so much. So play with it. Maybe you have water bottles you're giving away. Maybe it's T-shirts, whatever it may be. But it's a way just to incent people to get involved, and when they walk in the door, to check in, or on the way out, to check in. We talked about viral. We talked about reach. We talked about growing your practice, and that's what we're doing. We're growing your practice, and we're growing it through loyal customers and people who will refer you and people who will give you testimonials. Now, Facebook tells us, and this number has changed, but it's remained fairly consistent over the last 3 years, that the average person has approximately 130 Facebook friends. And a lot of people have their privacy settings set to friends of friends, which would expand it even more. So simple math here, if a post goes up, if 8 friends are liking or commenting on a post that's shared by a patient, obviously 8 times 130, the potential reach for that one post is 1,040 people. And you're probably aware that now you can pin a post. So when a post goes up on your business page, moving the cursor over to the right there, there's a little pin to top. So if you have something you want people to really see, maybe you're doing a workshop, maybe you're doing a special seminar, you can pin that post for 7 days, give people even more of a chance to share it. Now, some people have thousands of friends. Some people may have 25. So obviously we're looking at just an average here. But the idea is spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. We want people to see it, and we want people to understand that somebody they knew or somebody who knew somebody they knew thought that was important and thought they should see it. We talked about video. Video is becoming more and more popular, but right now as you look at this screen, you can see that the most interaction is happening on photos. And that's the reason that if you go on Facebook, you see that people are doing quotes in those pictures. Photos tend to be liked, shared, and engaged with, especially photos of people, photos of things, photos of people, of people that people know, excuse me. So photographs are important. And becoming more important, I would say a year ago, if you don't have some photos, go to Canstock Photo, and every once in a while that's okay, but what happens is everybody starts using all the same photos, and that isn't really going to help you. So pictures of staff, pictures of the physician, pictures of the practice, showing people what it looks like. If you do a seminar, if you do a workshop, pictures of that. Obviously pictures of very happy patients that are feeling better and that are recommending people. So again, video will probably climb on this, but right now it's a lot easier for people to take pictures, and pictures are definitely responded to and engaged with. We talked about this. I want to go back and address it. The overwhelming majority of testimonial posts are positive, overwhelmingly. Your patients want to thank you. People, when it comes to the internet, people are spending the majority of their time on social media. When it comes to social media, they're spending the majority of their time on Facebook, 6 to 7 hours a month on Facebook. Whether they're watching the news and the laptop is there anyway, whether it's a woman watching a football game, but she's also conversing on Facebook, whatever the case may be, people are using this vehicle. And they want to give you kudos. They want to thank you. So again, most posts are positive. But we all know you can't please everybody every day. And every once in a while, someone may put a post up on your Facebook page that's less than, a shining example of your practice in their opinion. This can be the best public relations opportunity you have. A couple of important things here. It needs to be responded to quickly. If you can respond to it as the doctor, that's great, but you may not be able to. You simply are too busy. If you're with a patient, if you're looking at x-rays, if you're doing whatever you're doing, if you're consulting with someone, but your staff can respond, and they'll respond on behalf of the practice. You want to thank the person for bringing the issue to your attention. I mean, you want to let them know that your goal, your absolute mission, is for every patient to have a satisfactory experience, for every patient to get better, and for every patient to walk out the door feeling like it was worth it coming in, and that they want to come back and they want to refer people. So you want to thank them. You want to let them know that. And you want to ask them to call or email you and give the phone number, give the email, right in the post, on the wall, so everybody can see, asking them to take the situation offline so you can rectify it. You're obviously not going to discuss someone's finances, someone's health, or any of that on an open forum on the wall on Facebook. Educating your patients. Here's where we get a little bit into the gray areas of HIPAA, and I say this to you just because it's common sense, and it shows that you are making every effort to respect people's privacy. There's nothing wrong with putting a sign or two up in your practice, just reminding your patients to respect the privacy of other patients. In other words, if somebody is sitting next to them and waiting, or if somebody is doing whatever they're doing, it's not about snapping a picture and saying, hey, take a look at this guy. He can barely stand up straight. Not appropriate. You don't want that kind of stuff. And, you know, people don't always think about this stuff. People forget sometimes. They don't have filters on any of this. You know, hospitals are running into this problem a lot. You guys are not going to have that situation. But it doesn't hurt to just put a sign up, please respect everybody's privacy, and many of you may already have that up in there. Third parties. I know the chiropractors that I work with and the chiropractor that I go to, you'll see a sign up that says, we will not discuss your situation with you while you're on your phone. It's obviously rude for somebody to be on a cell phone when they're taking your time or your staff's time so that you can help them get better. But there's also a third party present when they're on that cell phone. And in many cases, the third party can hear. So it just is a good practice. Let's not have an unauthorized person involved in the conversation when you're discussing any kind of a medical history or any kind of a condition. No cell phones when you're talking with your patients. And again, many of you may already have taken care of this. Conclusions. Well, here's one thing we know. We know that social media is here to stay. We also know, because everyone asks about the ROI, return on investment. And we're still working on ways to clearly identify that. But we know this. We know that people are on it. We know that people are referring on it. We know that people are spreading the word on it. We know that it helps with search engine optimization to get your website seen. We know that Google will bring up a Facebook page. So those are the things we know. It will change. I don't know if it'll be Facebook. I don't know what Facebook will look like in 5 years. But we have fundamentally changed the way we communicate, just like the telephone did 100 years ago. So it is here to stay. Consumers are looking to social media. They're looking for reviews online, no question about it. They're looking at things like Yelp and other situations, but they're also looking to validate through people they know on social media. What did you think of? I see requests all the time. Does anyone know a good plumber? Does anyone know a good electrician? I hurt my back. Do you know a good chiropractor in the area? So it is another way to validate referrals and to get referrals and to get recommendations. And then, of course, they can check out your Facebook page. They can check out your website. But again, those 6 to 7 hours a month is where many people are starting and spending the most of their time. I'm sure you all know referrals are always the greatest source of business. If you have a patient who's happy and is sending people to you, you don't have to convince that person. Someone they trust, someone they know has already told them. And again, I repeat, people are also turning to social media for those referrals and asking, who do you know, who's in the neighborhood? And as I said, some people keep their Facebook pages very private, so they're asking people they actually personally know. Other people, like myself, have opened their Facebook page up to people that not only that they know, but people that they have not met in person, and will share. And I will recommend, whether I know the person or not. Now, they're trusting me because I'm not going to suggest that they see a chiropractor that I don't know or that I haven't seen. Even if they haven't met me personally, they've established a relationship with me on Facebook. So if I give a referral, why not check that person out? And you are an important part of it. Again, time is money. But sharing a little bit, speaking as yourself on the Facebook page once or twice a week, just maybe putting some information up there, maybe responding to somebody's comment. And again, we're educating our patients that personal health information of themselves or someone else, not appropriate in a public forum. Those things are taken offline, a phone call, not on the wall of a Facebook page. And your staff can drive your practice through appropriate use of social media. Use them, and they will be happier to be involved. They want to help the practice grow. They want to have involvement, and they're talking to your patients. So get them involved. Get them trained. Get them trained with a social media policy. Make sure they understand what's appropriate, and have them sign off that they have seen it. And again, the social media policy will include not only what's going on the Facebook page for the practice, but understanding, where they draw the line with what they say on their personal page. And you do want to have an attorney, because first of all, you want to make sure whatever state you're in, that you're working within the guidelines, and you do want to have an attorney draw that up for you. Again, I want to thank Gwen and ChiroMatrix. I will tell you that I am asked often by my clients to recommend companies. I have not seen a company that I would recommend as highly as ChiroMatrix. They are there to support you. They do an incredible job both visually as well as with content and as well as with support. So I want to thank you, Gwen, and I want to thank ChiroMatrix for sponsoring this webinar this morning. And any questions?
Well, thank you, Debbie. I mean, that was a wonderful presentation. I know that I got a lot out of that as far as, best practices for our doctors, and I think that our attendees got a lot out of that as well. We're going to open it up for some question and answer for a few minutes. So if anyone has any questions, please type them into the question and answer module on your screen, and I'll go ahead and read those over to Debbie. In addition, we did record this webinar today, so we will have it up online in the next couple of days, and we'll send an email out to everyone who attended and who registered, so that if you want to review it again or reference back, you have that at your fingertips to be able to do. So we have a couple of different questions, Debbie, here, so let's just jump right in. Gavin Young would like to know if HIPAA is applicable in the UK.
That's an excellent question that I do not know the answer to. In the UK, you're asking, I'm going to say our HIPAA, probably not, but you probably have your own guidelines as far as privacy and such that, that you probably do want to check out.
Okay. Another question from Lisa Bell. Do we have to get patients to sign a release to use their picture or testimonial to use online?
Yes, and that's why I was mentioning, Lisa, excellent point. That's why I was mentioning one of the easiest ways to do that is to just put it on whatever you're using as an intake form when they first come in. And give you all of their personal information. It can be right on the bottom of that, or it can be a separate form, and just ask them. We love feedback. We love testimonials. Obviously, we appreciate referrals. We just want to make sure that you're comfortable with us posting your name and or picture or video on the Internet and social media. State the Internet and social media so people are clear. That if you say Internet, you also mean social media. If you say social media, you also mean the Internet, because after all, that is in essence where it's going to be. So excellent point.
Great. Okay. So a lot of our patients feel like they think we're going to be spamming them. What would you say to them to make them feel safe about liking your Facebook page?
And that's a great one. First of all, I'd let them know that you don't have the ability to spam them as a business page. What you want to do is you want to keep them informed of things that are going on, of health tips, of wellness tips. And I should mention that when your staff is posting, it's not just about the patients or about the staff. And I know that ChiroMatrix is assisting with that. But, interesting information. What are good foods? What if you're struggling with weight loss? What happens when the seasons change? All of those things you want to put up there and become a real source of wellness information, and assure them that at no time have you any intention of spamming them, and also reassure them that at any time if they choose not to be connected to the page, they simply have to unlike it. But you would like to be able to share the wellness and health information easily with them on Facebook.
Okay, great. Good question. All right, we have another question from Eric Raz. I tend to be an open book on my personal Facebook with only about 50 likes to my office page. For this reason, I tend to post Chiro stuff from my personal Facebook. Should I start posting more from my office page?
Absolutely. I would highly recommend that. Go ahead once in a while and post it on your personal page, but information, tips, information you want to get out there, absolutely posted on the business page, on your practice page. And again, remember, on the practice page, you can post as yourself or as the practice. I would recommend that everybody on your staff post as practice because you want that branding icon to be seen as often as possible. But I would also suggest, and I can see that you're someone who does get involved in this, to go ahead and post as yourself when you want to say something. And that's an easy transfer on Facebook to go between the page and the person.
Okay. Here's an interesting question. Is Pinterest worth looking into as another avenue for social media outreach?
That's a very interesting question. I'll tell you a little bit about Pinterest, which the person asked the question may already know. It's very successful. It actually, Pinterest, Twitter, and Google Plus had growth last month. Facebook was flat, but of course when you're at 1 billion users, you're at some point going to tap out. The thing with Pinterest is very visual, as you know. It's a billboard. It's pictures. It's 79% women, and they are between the ages of 25 and 55 for the most part. People are spending more money purchasing things off of Pinterest than any of the other sites. In fact, it's about double. However, for your profession, I'm not sure yet how much play you'll get, but there's no reason not to try it. To set up a billboard, to put up some pictures. Again, it's all visual. So it works best for retail products and services that are targeting women, but there is no reason not to try it if you have a staff member or yourself who's interested in it. And again, you can post up, if you create a flyer of some interesting information, if you have a patient that's doing a great job. I've had pictures of me taken in different two-way traction and wobble chairs and things like that for those of you that use that in your practice. So I would say try it, but understand that right now Pinterest is still really focused on more of a product, a visual product.
Okay. We have time for just a few more questions here. We have several, so I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them, but you guys are asking really great things. One of our viewers says, I did not understand the checking in slide. How do people check in?
They check in on their phones. If they have the or a tablet, like an iPad, if they have Facebook application on their phones, and most people do who are using a smartphone, they simply go to Facebook on their phone, and there's a little button that says check in, and it will bring up by GPS where they are, or they can type it in and check in at your practice. And you can do it on the computer as well, but of course they're not carrying their computers into your appointments, but most of them will absolutely have their phones.
Okay. Another good question here. Should I answer questions on my business page from my personal page?
I would start, as we mentioned a few moments ago, I would start migrating people who are asking questions regarding your practice over to the business page. And that can be as simple as putting a message on your personal page saying, you know, hey everybody, I'm really hoping you'll connect with our business page, and giving them the link. Please refer all questions over to that page, and start gearing people over there. If you get friend requests from patients, you can send back a private message to them saying, thank you so much for your friend request, but I really keep that, I'm trying to keep that page for family and friends. Would you please engage with me on our practice page and give them the link. You really want to use the practice page and start migrating that stuff off of your personal page. And I think you're going to be better, and again, I'm just out my opinion here, I think you're going to be better with any kind of HIPAA stuff too, because it's on the business page and you've shown best practices and you've trained your staff. I would move people away from doing that on your personal page.
Okay. And this will be the last question. I'm sorry to those of you who we didn't quite get to, but this is a great question. How do I decide what to post on Facebook versus what to put on my website? What kind of articles are for each? And what type for Google Plus and what type for Twitter?
Well, here's what I'll recommend. I usually recommend to my clients they set up some Google alerts, which are free, based on their profession. So they can get whatever hitting the web, they can get some new information that comes in almost daily and scroll down and see if there's something interesting. If you're into tweeting, that's one thing. I usually have my clients forward their Facebook posts over to Twitter automatically, and once in a while put something on Twitter, because you are speaking a little bit differently to a little bit of a different audience. On Google Plus has not really taken off, but we all understand that it's Google, so we need to have a presence there. And this is a great question because often you're talking to the same audience when you talk to people. I would just, maybe you see 3 articles in the course of a week that come through on Google Alert, or maybe you have articles that are coming through to you that you're getting from other sources, magazines, newspapers that you're getting online. Play with it. Put one on Facebook, put one on Google Plus, and see what you get more responses with. Look at your Facebook insights. See what you're getting more engagement with. Then try a different type of an article on Facebook and switch them with Google. You really have to play with some of this and see what people are engaging with and see what your audience is engaging with. And I will say one comment here. If you're just going to spend time on one, spend it on Facebook to start with.
That's some really good feedback there. We also say when our social specialist gets asked that question a lot, like, what's the difference between what I should post on my website versus what I should put on social media? And he has a great analogy. He says that your website is really the meal. You really want to post a lot of educational information about your practice and all these different things. And your social media is really the dessert. It's where you want to engage with people and help them get comfortable with your office and your staff, and you know, and praise your successes that you have of your patients and things like that. So that's a good way to think of it too when you're thinking about what should I put on my blog, on my website, versus you know, what you should publish on your social media channels. A lot of people go to social media to be entertained. So so just keep that in mind there. Well, Debbie, thank you so. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, Gwen, that's a great point, and you brought up just one quick thing I'm going to say when I said play with this. Have some fun with it. It's not all about your practice. It's not all about business. It's not, you know, if you have a favorite sports team, it's okay to put that up on the business page. Obviously, no politics, no religion, none of that stuff. But it's okay to expand out beyond the box of just your practice and just chiropractic, and you know, and play with it, and again, I agree with Gwen. People are looking to Facebook, and they may look to Facebook before your website. So again, and I think of it more of like that's where they're really doing more research. And on Facebook, they really want to get a feel for who you are and start building a relationship with you.
Exactly. Well, again, Debbie, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation today. For all of you that attended today, we will be sending out an email to you that has a link to the recording of the webinar in case you want to refer back to it. And if anyone's interested in, a free social media consultation or has any questions following the webinar, feel free to give us a call also at 1-800-CHiroMatrix. And I know, Debbie, I think you had another slide on there that also had your information as well. Again, I just want to thank everyone for attending today. You can follow ChiroMatrix on Facebook as well at facebook.com/ChiroMatrix. If you have any questions for Debbie, her contact information is here as well. So, Debbie, thank you and have a great day. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
All right.